join us today on Workout Smarter, 7 tips for getting and staying motivated. It's such a great pleasure to have you here. Get ready to have some fun. We're glad you're here because this would be no fun if it was just me talking to myself all day long. I'm your moderator, Randy Quinn. I'm a communications specialist here at PeaceHealth. But we're here to help you. We're going to be getting to know you through polls and through our sound quality. Everybody's going to be muted except me and Lindsey, because if we have 400 people talking at once, nobody benefits. So we do want to get to know you. We're going to do that by asking you to submit questions at any time. And you can do that if you're on your smartphone. Look at the top of your smartphone. You'll see a little question mark up there. Click on that and that'll bring up a box and give you an opportunity to type in your question. It'll zip right to us. Or if you're on your desktop, find the box where it says type message here, and you know what to do with that. Type your message here, and again, that'll zip right to us, and we'll be able to pose your question to Lindsey. Hey, chance to win a free Fitbit today. You can enter the drawing for the Fitbit by completing the survey after today's session is over. So hang with us for a few minutes, fill out the survey, and somebody is going to win a Fitbit, and we'll let that person know who they are through the email. Our speaker today is Lindsey King, and if you had a chance to join us on our last webinar, you know what a dynamic speaker Lindsey is. A lot of great information that she has. She's a licensed clinical psychologist. She focuses on bariatrics. It's a little bit frightening for me to talk to her because I always feel like she's analyzing me to figure out exactly what's wrong with me. But today we're going to be talking about how Lindsey can help us. She works with clients at our PeaceHealth program in Springfield in Oregon. Did a dissertation on pediatric obesity management. She's got experience in bariatric psychology, weight loss, and exercise therapy. And she's a Wyoming native who enjoys hiking and traveling and her American Eskimo dog. So Lindsey, thanks so much for joining us and welcome. Glad you're here.
Well, thank you so much for having me back. I just want to say I'm super excited today. This is something, talking about exercise or physical activity is something I am truly excited about. I absolutely love physical activity and it does so much for people. So I am really excited to get started today. The first thing that we're going to do, obviously, is I'm going to start from the beginning and give you a few pointers of what you want to do before you get started with exercise. And then, of course, we're going to give you some great ideas of common benefits, why you want to be exercising. We'll do a little bit of talking about just exercising as we get older, give you some pointers there. And then, of course, we'll get into the reason you all came today and help you with some things that I have found. I pulled out 7 things that have been the most successful with working with different clients and patients in the history that I've done this to really help them master their motivation and get themselves motivated to start exercising or continue exercising. And then, of course, we will have time to have some questions and give you some answers if you guys have some questions for stuff I just didn't get the chance to go over. So, first things first. Really, before I start with anyone, and I think everyone has probably seen this who's ever bought an exercise video or, you know, has gone to work with a trainer or at a gym, there's always some little disclaimer statement that tells you that before you start any exercise that you really should get cleared by your doctor. And I agree with this, and I actually recommend it for people. If you haven't been working out, you really want to make sure before you start anything that you're very clear on what medical issues you might have. If you do have injury, you really want to talk with a doctor, or if you've had surgeries, talk with a surgeon, really get some recommendations. You don't want to, I love for people to be active, but I don't like them to start doing things that are going to get them more injured, because then they can't be more physically active and it actually goes against what they're trying to do. So it's super important to make sure that if you have medical issues or injuries that you are thinking about those before you choose to be physically active and start exercising. Another thing I go over with people is, now we'll go over this a little bit in a second, but you know, exercise is great for decreasing stress and getting stress out of your life and helping you cope. But if you do have stressors, unfortunately, sometimes when you are really stressed out, that can actually work against. Like it actually takes a lot of mental energy to deal with stress. And so a lot of people that come in will tell me that the more stressed out they are, the less they want to work out. And that is so true. It's so normal. And yet at the same time, you really want to work around that, but you want to know what your stress is. And maybe there are days where you're really stressed out, that those aren't the days you pick to work out. And we'll go into that more too as we go through the presentation. So I'll give you some pointers on that as well. Then the last thing I like to go over with people is to look at your life. Maybe you have friends and family that are already working out, or maybe they want to work out too. And that can be some of your best support in the world to get you to be physically active, to help you get there, to join in with other people. But then also on the other side of this, you know, you might have people in your life where maybe they aren't as physically active, and sometimes they work against that. So you want to be aware of the people in your life that you might, if you're trying to be more physically active, you want to gravitate toward those people and spend more time with those people if you're trying to be physically active. And maybe if there's other times that you want to just sit and chill and binge watch some Netflix, you can hang out with the people that maybe don't want to be as physically active. So choose your support system that would really get you motivated and keep you going. And then, of course, I want to go into the wonderful benefits, but first we have a poll. Randy?
We do have a poll, and as I mentioned, we want to find out who's out there in our audience and how we can, how you can benefit from this. So first of all, the question about you: what do you think of when you hear the word exercise? If somebody says to you, "Hey Jim, hey Joan, exercise," do you start to sweat, or do you feel fat? Do you feel out of breath? Or maybe you feel a rush of energy just when you hear the word exercise. It's like, oh yeah, that's for me. You feel a good burn in your muscles. I mean, it's your visceral response when you hear the word exercise. We want to get an idea of what you feel when, and when you hear it, Lindsey, I'm guessing this is going to give us an indication of what people think about the idea of being a person who does that kind of thing, the exercising thing. And not everybody is the same thing. So we're getting pretty good response right now. I'll give you about 5 more seconds, but so far, the last least common answer is feeling out of breath. So far, feeling fat is ahead. So exercise for a lot of people seems like it has a negative connotation. I feel fat. It's a reminder like, oh, all right, I'm going to close the poll up now, and I'll show you the responses here. Pretty even across the board, but feeling fat did come in as the top one. But interestingly, behind it, number 2, feeling a rush of energy, which is a positive. Like, oh, exercise, yes, a rush of energy I would think would be a good thing. And then tied behind that is sweating and feeling a good burn in my muscles. Again, another one that sounds like a positive. I know, to me, I'm not a psychologist, but to me, this looks like our audience is kind of mixed on how we feel just about the whole ice.
It is true. I mean, I hear that so often. So normal to have both a positive and a negative response to thinking about exercising, or, you know, and it really does depend on people's experience. It depends on, you know, what they're feeling about themselves. If they are feeling, you know, that they're not as in shape as they'd like normal, and it doesn't mean that you can't actually change that up, you know, and start to feel a little about exercise. And one
so
of the
maybe if somebody says, hey, we're going to do some exercise, and you were one of the people who said, oh, I'm so fat, you can change the way you think about that.
Most definitely. Yeah. It's
okay.
Yeah, and what we found, you know, I've got up here, you know, why exercise and some common benefits. And there's a whole bunch of them. You know, there's medical, there's physical stuff, there's stuff that the medical doctors will get behind and say, hey, this is wonderful for you. And there's stuff that the psychologists get behind. Those of us in the mental health field have learned, you know, and there's tons of research behind both of these, where we really look at, you know, any type of physical activity is so beneficial for people. And of course, the stuff that I usually focus on is the psych stuff, right? if you're doing some kind of regular physical activity, it will help you with mood, like depression, anxiety, stress. You'll feel better in general about life, about yourself, you know. And once you actually start doing it on a regular basis, we actually do have people coming in and talking about how they feel so much better about themselves. It actually decreases those feelings, you know, where some people were saying earlier they were feeling fat. It decreases that idea because they start to feel good about what they're doing and that physical activity, and they start to see the advantages. And so it's such a great thing all across the board for everybody, physically and mentally. And that's why a lot of people, you know, they might be looking at it where there's certain things they want to do or certain physical activity they want to get into, and then not realize there's so many benefits. But there's so many. So it's a wonderful, no matter what gets you motivated to do it, there's so many benefits that come from it. And I just love to point that out to people because sometimes we don't realize that. And I really want to talk about this as well because I do work with patients from anywhere from their 20s all the way up into their 70s. And I have a lot of people that come in, and if maybe over time, because we do get sedentary as we get older, if you've started to get more sedentary, you're not as in shape as you were, and you're looking at becoming more physically active, I just got to tell you, as we get older, exercise or physical activity is one of the best things in the world that you can do. We have just research upon research upon research that tells us that if you stay fit as you get older, that it actually does decrease a lot of the medical problems and injuries that you might see from some people that maybe, you know, got more sedentary. And the thing is, as you get older, you want to be able to enjoy your life, right? So if you're physically fit, you actually do see that it increases life and you get to enjoy the life that you've just increased. So it's a wonderful thing. I talked about the well-being, you know, feeling a sense of well-being, but also as you get and you stay in shape, it increases your likelihood of staying mentally with it, you know, and physically vital. And then the last one, which is a big thing and does have a lot of research behind it, is that if you have regular physical activity as you get older, it has been associated with a reduction in dementia and Alzheimer's, which I know I do have people that come in, and that's a worry for them as we get, worry for anyone as they get older. So it's another great benefit of staying physically fit. Now, one of the things that I hear, and I hear it a lot, and I've experienced it as I've gotten older, is that as we get older, we do start to struggle with injuries and arthritis and chronic pain. Maybe, you know, you've been in an accident, maybe something, you've had a surgery. And so there are things that as we get older, maybe we can't do the things we did or that we enjoyed physically when we were young. So I'd like to tell people, think outside the box. If you do have injury, that does not mean that you just can't exercise anymore. It means that you got to get creative. You know, there are water aerobics. There, you may not be able to run anymore, but you can walk. If you're having struggles with like pain and injury, yoga a lot of the times is something that people will say has really helped them. You know, chair or seated exercises. You know, I've worked with people that do have a lot of physical stuff going on with their back or their knees or their hips, and they've been able to use chair seated exercises or get into the water aerobics. So there's so many different things that even if you've got injury, it's a wonderful thing to try and think outside the box. There's so many different things you can do to stay physically fit. So I really, when people come in frustrated, I really like to encourage them to try and find different things they can do, because it doesn't mean that you can't be physically active. Okay, so this is why you're all here. This is what we're talking about. As I've worked with people over time, the one thing that tends to come up the most when it comes to physical activity, either beginning or staying physically active, is motivation. And everybody I've ever worked with is very motivated for the outcome. Right? We all want to get to the outcome. That actually usually is the motivator. I want to be more healthy. I want to get down on the floor and play around with my kids or my grandkids. I want to walk upstairs without losing my breath. I want to get into these clothes that I want to wear. There's so many different reasons, and everybody is motivated for those. What we all struggle with is the daily motivation. We get tired, we are stressed, we are working, you might be in school, you might have kids, you might have grandkids, tons of responsibility that gets in the way. And the more tired we are, the less we actually want to give that energy to working out. So it's the day-to-day, right? And so I'm going to give you some pointers with all of that stuff. And I want to give you a little bit more information about just what motivation looks like before we get going. But I believe we have a poll. So I'm going to give this to Randy.
We do, and we want to find out, as before, a little bit about our audience and what specific issues that we're facing here. And I think this might be not just the biggest question of the day, but one of the biggest questions of our lives. What is your biggest obstacle to exercising? Now, Lindsey's already gone across, talked about the many reasons we should be exercising, and yet most of us don't. The great majority of Americans don't. So why not? What's your specific reason? Is it physical? Do you have pain, an injury, or some other ailment that's stopping you from doing it? Just too many other responsibilities. Those kids. Is it emotional? I mean, your brain can get in the way of a lot of positive habits. Do you forget to do it, or is it some other reason? And if there is another reason that's significant, go to your chat window, type it in your chat window. We'll share some of those answers too, and some of those are popping in. One of them is inconvenient, not enough time. That's another one. And you know, I was sitting here thinking, when I was a kid, we had built-in exercise times into our day. We had recess 3 times a day when I was in school. And now I get paid to sit at my desk and type up brilliant documents, but nobody ever says, hey, you have to go outside and play, Randy. They never say that to me. So it's not part of my structure. We have another person said too tired, not enough time. Weather for outside activities. You know, here in the Pacific Northwest, where it's always raining and windy, it can be such a struggle to go outside. Whereas if you live in sunny Southern California, you know, that can be such an easier thing. So I'm going to go ahead and close this chat window now. Thanks everybody who shared, and let's see what everybody has to say. So the number one answer at 34% was just too many responsibilities. Second, not far behind, was physical obstructions, pain, injury, or other ailments. 95% of the people are not forgetting to do it, only 5%. You know, you get to the end of the day and you go, oh, I just forgot to do it. And about 14% otherwise. Lindsey, is this about what you would expect to see? And more importantly, people with too many responsibilities, do they get permission to not exercise, or do you have a different plan for them?
So, you know, permission, I mean, I would say that really I completely understand it. There have definitely been times in my life where there has been so much going on that fitting that in would have been difficult. So I completely understand it. I try and work around that for them. I try to make it something where, you know, they can do something that maybe is minimal, you know, doesn't take a ton of time. And, you know, I talk up the benefits and try and get them motivated in that way as well. But we do work around a lot of there's so much going on that it's a struggle. People are tired. They don't have the time. It takes a lot of mental energy to begin a new routine, especially a physical one. And then, you know, with physical ailments that people have, or like you had said, it's not factored in to the day like it was when we were young. And most of us don't have the jobs where, you know, it's a part of that work day and someone comes in and says, all right, it's time, let's go out and run, or, you know, let's go walk the stairs up and down, and so we have to take it upon ourselves. And so it becomes really difficult to fit that in there. And which is really why we're going to go over the motivations to help people hopefully be able to work around this so that they feel a little bit better. And this is when I go into the motivation. So a lot of this, because it is, you got to get yourself motivated. And the thing that we've learned about exercise is that in and of itself, it's not motivating before you start it. So once you get it started, there are all those wonderful things. And so people start to feel better, and that's motivating. But before that, we kind of have to find our reason to become motivated to exercise and get that physical activity in. And so there's 2 different kinds of motivation that we primarily work with, the intrinsic and the extrinsic. And the intrinsic is more, it comes from you. It's thoughts, it's feelings that are just about you. Do you find what you're doing fun? Do you find it challenging? Are you going to be more motivated by that sense of a personal improvement? Or are you the person who's going to be more motivated by stuff that's outside of you? Now, you would think the health is more intrinsic, but really it's an outside factor. It's not a thought or a feeling. So your health is extrinsic as far as it would prevent heart disease. It would get you maybe off of some medications if you got more physically active. So I have people that come in and say that those are motivating things. Some people, they really appreciate that validation, like people saying like, wow, you're looking really good. Wow, we can tell you've been working out. We can see those muscles, you know, whatever that is. But some people are really motivated by getting that praise and that validation. Others like the tangible things. Like, so I've had people that have joined weight loss challenges at their gyms because they want to win like a pot of money, right? Or get a certificate for certain things. You might want to join, you know, go and do a 5K or the marathons because of the t-shirt that you get or the medal that you get, right? So those, and most people, I've just got to put this out there, are a little bit of both. Like there's some things that kind of get them going for them, but there's outside things too. And you really want to look at your personality. It's very, very important to be your own expert and figure out what's going to motivate me to do this thing that's going to take my extra time, that is going to be one more responsibility. And so I really work with people on what's going to motivate you internally and externally. All right, here's the reason that everyone's here, right? You're like, get to it. So in all the time that I've been working with people and learning about motivation, I pulled out 7 things, these 7 steps that, one, I work with all people on, but also that I feel are the things that really have been helpful for people over time to help them create new routines and get them exercising and becoming more physically active when that is their goal. So I'm going to go over each one of these individually. And my very first one is what we call in the psych field, SMART goals. And yes, it's, you know, an acronym, and we use each one of them. As you can see, the S, we begin with being very specific. I have people that will come in and they will say to people, you know, they will say to everybody, I want to work out, right? But they don't get specific. And so sometimes they'll say, well, I want to increase my physical activity, or I want to run, or I want to lift weights. And then they get like a week or 2 down the line and they haven't done any of those things because life gets in the way, right? And I seem to be, okay. And so what I found is that when you do SMART goals, that you want to be very specific, right? Your very first thing is we ask people, right? What exercise do you want to do? That's the first one. And then there are other specific questions. So when are you going to do it? What days are you going to do it, right? You actually want to be looking at those things, and you want to say, I'm going to, let's just say that, for instance, you say, I want to start lifting weights. Okay, well, what days, right? I'm going to do it on this day, this day, this day. What time? Are you going to do it before work? Are you going to do it after work? So the more specific you can be, the better off you are. The next one is what we call measurable. How are you going to know that you're making progress? How will you have reached that goal? And so here I like to caution people, because a lot of the time I hear people telling me that they want to do this because they want to lose weight, which is a wonderful thing for a lot of people. The problem with that I see with that for a lot of people is they can be doing all the right stuff, you know, and maybe you guys have struggled with this too, where you're doing all the right things and you step on the scale and you don't see it move. And so people get really discouraged. And again, physical activity is a hard thing to stay motivated with. So usually what I tell people is track the physical activity. If you say to yourself, you're going to work out more, and you've created a schedule of what you're going to do, make that how you're going to see your progress. So the weight will take care of itself. If you are getting the activity in and you got your nutrition down and all that, the weight takes care of itself. So you can do that, but don't only make your progress and your tracking and your measuring about the weight, make it about your behavior. Attainable, okay, that's our next one. Do you have the resources? And by this, we're talking the time, the money, the energy, your space, or the availability to do, or the ability to do the activity. Okay, so if you're saying to yourself, I want to join a gym, do you have the time and the money, right? If you're saying to yourself, like, okay, I want to run a marathon, but the marathon's happening in a couple months, you may not be able to do that in a couple months, and you may not have the energy to train like that, especially if you don't have the time. So you look at all of your resources and the activity you've chosen, and sometimes you end up with a different activity, okay? The next one, and for me, I really always look at the reality of how realistic is somebody's goal, especially with physical activity. With what you're doing, with everything, all the responsibilities that you guys talked about earlier, is this activity a priority for you? You know, can you do it? What will you have to give up to make time for it? And are you able to do that? So you want to make sure that whatever your activity is that you've chosen, you really can do it. You have the time for it, you have the money for it, you can do it. And if you got to give up something, it's something that you're willing to give up. So let's just say, like, you've got so many responsibilities and you say to yourself, I don't know that I can fit in a half hour, you know. Well, you might be able to fit in 10 to 15 minutes. So we work around that. We really do see what you can do and make the most of your time and be realistic. And I've been talking about time because it is a very big deal, and it is the very last one that we go over. Is this a good time to start the activity? Now, a lot of people would say then if it's not a good time, maybe you have the kids stuff going on, maybe you are working full time and you're going to school, maybe it's just a really stressful time at your job right now. So if those are the cases, it may not be that you can't become physically active, it may be that you have to change. You have to make an adjustment in what you want to do physically so that you can do it in a shorter amount of time. But there may be a time in your life where it's not a good time to start something like this. And then we work around that goal and we talk about when would be a better time for you. So, excuse me, the next one I like to talk about is what I call persuasion. So this is based on the research that our thoughts and our feelings influence our behavior. And as psychologists, we're very aware of this. So I talk with people about, you can talk yourself in and talk yourself out of almost anything. You know yourself very, very well. So we can persuade ourselves to do things that, well, that we don't want to do or do want to do. So it's not about what you're saying to yourself about your exercise. It's actually how you're saying it. People's personalities play a big role in this. So you might be that person that benefits more, like I had said, about thinking about, you know, your health and what you're going to get out of this, like the stamina and your endurance, and maybe you're going to be able to buy more clothes and you're going to be able to go on those adventure vacations and hike everywhere. What are you going to gain? You might not be that person. You might be the person that thinks to themselves, what do I lose, right? Like you might be thinking, I want pounds, I want inches, I want to get rid of these medications that I have to take. You know, maybe you're on high blood pressure meds, or, you know, maybe you're struggling with some diabetic issues. Maybe you want to get rid of some of those things. Sometimes it really is what you've got to say to yourself to persuade yourself and reinforce physical activity. It's one of the best things in the world. All right, so the next thing, yes, I call it manipulation because that, well, I just like the way that sounds. It's changing stuff. So really, you want to manipulate your environment to increase your motivation. And what I mean by this is you want to make sure that in that environment that's around you, that it increases that idea of you wanting to exercise. Now that can be anything. You can put up pictures of the exercise you want to do, of maybe the activities that when you're more in shape or when you're feeling more powerful or that you have more endurance, maybe there are things you want to go do that you've been putting off because you're like, you know what, I'm just not active enough. I'm not in shape enough to go do these things. So maybe you want to put up that picture of Machu Picchu where you can hike all the stairs and have a great time doing, or going kayaking or wild water rafting or whatever that is. Maybe you have people that you look up to, you know, that are very healthy. Maybe you want to put up pictures of that. Maybe you want to put out some goal clothes, or maybe buy yourself some goal clothes, some clothes that maybe you've been looking forward to getting into that you haven't bought because you don't think that you'll fit into them, or you don't want to buy them in a bigger size, which I completely get. Maybe you want to put out your workout clothes. And this is one, I will tell you, I do this. My workout clothes are right where I can see them when I walk in the door, so that really there's a lot about my environment that's going to let me know and remind me that I'm wanting to work out. Another thing, and we talk more about this later, but I'm all about manipulating the environment with music and getting myself motivated and upbeat and working out a little bit more. So just change up your environment, or as I like to say, manipulate it. Manipulate yourself to do the things you want to do. All right, next. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones. So when I talk about physical activity, and I don't know if you guys could tell, I get very excited because there's so many good things about it. You feel so great about yourself. And I tell people, exercise kind of gets a bad label, and I think people kind of think of themselves sweating and going to the gym, and maybe it's work. It feels like work. And so I like to tell people, remember when you were a kid, or just watch kids. Have you ever watched, like, kids run everywhere? They are so excited to do everything. They run to the car. They run from the car to the house. They try and run around in parking lots, but you know, the parents are good. They keep them near. But they run everywhere. They run to recess. They are so excited to go and do things because they're playing. They love to play. And if you look at what you're doing, whatever your physical activity is, as this is something you enjoy and you like it and you're playing, you're going to enjoy it more. And that's what you're looking at. You want to be very, very personalized about what you choose to do for physical activity. And you want to think about your personality, right? I have it up here that there are extroverts and there are introverts. And really all that means is how you get your energy and what you enjoy. So if you are that person that enjoys being around other people, you might be the person that enjoys going to a group class, or doing the big races where there are tons of people, or going to a gym where there's a lot of people. You might like that. If you're introverted, the thought of doing any of those things might just make you cringe. So you might be the person that work out at home. Maybe you need to get yourself some DVDs, or maybe you go on hikes that are a little bit more isolated, or maybe with just a few close friends you go on walks. Maybe you even want to make, you know, that purchase of some exercise equipment you can use at home. It doesn't matter. It's just, you kind of have to look at your personality and figure out what works for you. And as long as it works for you and keeps you doing it and you're enjoying it, that's what you want to be doing. You want that playful movement in your life. And I put down here some stuff, and, you know, I put down climbing trees. Now, I have not climbed trees. I'm not going to lie. I haven't climbed trees in a very long time, but I remember doing it and how much fun it was. And I just put some playful activities up here that I think of, and I think, you know, those are fun. They're outside the box. It doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and do these things, but you want to have some fun. So think outside the box when you're doing this, because those things are very motivating. If you like what you're doing, you will keep doing it. We know that. All right, this one actually is my all-time favorite because I love music. I have loved music since I was a kid. I was one of those kids that had, you know, well, I'm going to date myself, but I had the Walkman and listened to cassettes until there was the CD one, and, you know, now MP3s and iPods and streaming. But music is so motivating, and there is research behind this, you guys, that actually says if you're playing music that motivates you while you're working out, you actually work out harder. You don't think you are working out harder, and you actually feel better during the workout. So we tell people, and I tell people all the time that I'm working with, to get themselves a playlist of music that they love that would motivate them and get them moving. You can use different songs for different workouts. Like, I listen to totally different songs when I'm warming up and cooling down than when I'm actually doing my main workout, or even when I'm lifting weights. I have all kinds of different music that I use. And I will say this, that I listen to music while I'm on my way to go work out so that I will work out when I get there. So you can use music for so many different things. And this one, okay, so this is based on research, once again, about your thoughts influencing your behaviors. But I like to tell people that, to come up with a mantra. And I came up with this a few years ago. And honestly, I couldn't tell you how I came up with it at the time. I think I was working with someone and they really liked the idea of having a mantra, and it really helped them. And so since then, I've kind of adopted it in, and it tends to work for people because it's very reinforcing. And it is based on the fact that we all do. We have thoughts and feelings that really get in the way of us actually beginning or continuing to work out. And we call these high risk thoughts and feelings. And so we want people to have like a motto or a mantra. And this is based on positive self-talk or the positive self-affirmations that motivates you. It's very individual to you. And you want to make it future focused. And these are things that you can say to yourself when you're going to exercise, when you're in the middle of an exercise and you just want to fall down and stop, but it really keeps you going. And it can be anything really that is very positive. And I'm going to blow their minds. I'm unstoppable. I'm winning. I'm powerful. Anything that gets you going. I just absolutely love the idea of this. And I have a lot of clients and patients that have used this over time and just absolutely love it. Okay, so I feel like we have a poll now. Randy.
We do, and this one is, what time of the day do you feel most motivated to exercise? And we have 5 different choices. The first one is early morning. Pop out of bed, and the first thing you want to do is start working up a sweat and get that fresh morning glow going, and also get it out of the way. You're more of a midday person. Go do it on your lunch hour, or maybe early afternoon. You're done with lunch and now you want to do it, or maybe after you get home and you're done with your day's responsibilities in the evening, or never. And the question again is, when do you feel most motivated to exercise? So never is a fair answer, I suppose. It doesn't mean that you won't exercise. It just means that you are never in the mood to do it. So what time of the day do you feel most motivated? We'll find out what we have here for the audience. And so far the polling is showing there are 2 very clear leaders in this. Never is, fortunately, trailing way behind, because it sounds like we have a pretty motivated crew here. And I'm going to close the poll now because the answers are almost neck and neck for, I'll share this, it's 32% are early in the morning, 34% in the evening. Midday is 13, early afternoon is 14. I'm a lunch hour exerciser because I hate getting up early in the morning to do anything. I mean, anything. And then the evening, I'm a little bit tired and there's so many other things to do, but that's just me. But that looks like evening is the most popular time for other people to do it. So Lindsey, is there a best time for people to be exercising, or what advice would you offer?
So, again, and I do say this a lot, it's so individual to the person, and I make sure that they're very aware of that. What we do find, though, there is research that does back up that when people do it in the morning, it's a little bit easier for them to engage in that physical activity first thing. There's so many variables to that, but what we found is that, usually first thing in the day, people have a little bit more energy. And then also the day doesn't get in the way is what we've heard. Like there's so many responsibilities. I remember that earlier poll where people were saying that the responsibilities ended up being something that kept them from doing things. And so when you have kids or you have work, that can get in your way. And what we found is that a lot of people find that if they wait until later on, something happens. Work runs late, they have meetings, something maybe happens with your kids and you have to go and run and do those things. So most people will tell us, and research backs up, that if you're trying to create a physical activity routine, the easiest time is the early morning. Now that doesn't mean that you can't work out at any time of the day. That just might be the easiest time. And so I do tell people, if you're having a hard time finding the time to put this in, or you've tried to make that goal to do it some other time during the day or in the evening and it's just not happening, it might be going back to the SMART goal and looking at, is it because your responsibilities are getting in the way of this goal? So you might have to move some things around and finagle it, and you might have to get up 15, 20 minutes earlier, which for some people, like Randy, it's horrible to have to get up first thing in the morning and get up earlier. The thought of it for some people is just tough. So, but we do talk about that with people. And again, I would like to end that with saying it's going to be up to you individually. If your personality style is early morning or midday or early afternoon or evening, and you found that you're successful with any of those, then that's what you stick with. So that's that. Okay, so this is the 7th one, and I've given a little bit more time because this is actually a cognitive coping skill. And some of you are like, oh no, but it does work. I call it AutoPilot. Now, there are people in the psych field that would call it breaking down the goal into more doable steps. I've also heard it called mini efforts. I call it AutoPilot because when I use this skill, that's what it feels like I'm doing. I'm going on autopilot. So what we tell people is that because physical activity is such a hard thing to begin, that you want to create an environment or a routine where all you're doing when you're on your way to exercise or even before you're on your way, that's what you're thinking about, is this physical activity and how you're going to get it in. Okay. And so I use an example from my own personal life because I've struggled with this as well. I struggle with motivation as much as I love physical activity and how I feel when I'm doing it. We all have that idea of, yeah, I want that outcome goal, and we all get tired. So my routine, because it works out better for me, is to do my workout in the evening once I get home from work. And I will tell you, there have been times like at lunch, my mind will be like, I don't feel like going and working out tonight. And I'm like, it is noon. I'm not even close to doing that right now. So my mind will get in the way. It will have all these thoughts of, I'm tired. I can work out tomorrow. Maybe there's a show that I really want to watch when I get home that's on my DVR calling to me. So all these thoughts get in my head. And what we found is that when people go home or they're at work and they're thinking about the physical activity, their exercise that they're going to go do, it actually doesn't work to say, I need to get on the treadmill. I need to get to the gym. I need to get my workout in. I need to go weightlift. The need of it doesn't work. So for me, and it doesn't work for me either, if I'm at home and I have not already gotten on the treadmill and I'm sitting in my comfy recliner and my dog's in my lap and maybe the TV's on already, I can't sit there and say to myself, I need to get up and get on the treadmill, because it just doesn't work for me. So I've learned to turn on my autopilot. And what I do is I actually do have the workout music playing when I'm in the car going home. But once I get home, I break it down. I'm not thinking of getting on the treadmill and working out, because I got to tell you guys, that feels like a lot of energy to give. And that energy works against us. The idea of going to work out takes a lot of energy. We know it. And saying it actually feels like there's more energy to give. So you don't think about the workout yet. You think to yourself, I'm just going to get into my clothes to work out in. I'm just going to put my clothes on. That's all I'm doing right now, right? Then once you're dressed, you say the next step. Now that I'm dressed, I'm just going to go get on the treadmill. I'm just going to head out to the car to go get into the car. If you're going to the gym, you're still not thinking about the workout. Okay. Then it's the next step. Once I'm on the treadmill, well, obviously I'm standing on the treadmill. So I'm going to turn it on, and you know what? I'm just going to walk 10 minutes, especially the days that I'm really tired. I'm just going to give it 10 minutes. So then at that 10 minutes, I have never just turned off the treadmill at 10 minutes. Now, there have been days, but I still go, because then I'm like, well, I'm here, I'm warmed up. I might as well keep going. I might as well jog, run, do my 2 miles, whatever it is that I have in store for myself. I'm just going to do that. And the reason we know that this works, again, is that if you don't think about the end, that whole energy expenditure of I got to go work out, it actually does become more doable with just that next step. I'm just going to get in my clothes. I'm just going to go to the gym. I'm just going to walk through the door. I'm just getting on the piece of equipment, right? If it's a DVD you're doing at home, I'm just going to get my workout clothes. You know what? I'll turn it on. I'll do the warm up and maybe the first 5-10 minutes. Usually people will keep going. And the reason that is about 10 to 15 minutes in, your endorphins are kicking, which actually gives you more energy. If you're not, that's when I say put that music back on. Use all of these to keep yourself motivated. Don't just choose one, right? Use them all. All of these are going to get you there, okay? All right, so we've gone through a lot of stuff, but one of the things that I also really love to go over with people, because we know it works, is that if you want to exercise, right, and maybe you would like company, and what we know is that a lot of the time it's easier to go if someone's coming with you. It's kind of an accountability thing. Sometimes it doesn't work, but most of the time, if you've got family or friends that are doing it with you, you are actually more accountable. It's harder to talk yourself out of going. That's the thing. So if you want company, invite people, right? If people are already going, invite yourself with them, invite them to join you, you join them. Ask people in your life, at school, at work, at church, ask people within your environment. If there are not people within your environment, or if you've asked them and no one really seems to be all that jazzed about it, and you can't seem to get people within your life to go, maybe you can find groups or classes or other people that are already doing it or want to do it and get them involved. So you can look in the newspaper, see if there are groups there that are advertising and want people. Almost every community fitness center gym I've ever been to has groups or classes, or there's stuff up on their bulletin boards about people who have other groups or walking or hiking, or they're going and doing things even outside of the fitness centers. And of course, we all know that you can almost find anything on the internet. So you can use that, Google it, and see if you can't find a walking group or a hiking group or a kayaking group or a tree climbing group in your area. If you do all those things and you really cannot, no one in your life wants to do it, you've asked people, you've looked, you can't seem to find somebody that wants to do the things you want to do, form your own group. Then you're doing the stuff you want to do, you're doing things you love, and you're inviting people, and see if you can't get people in there with you. And then you're going to have more fun with it too. And that seems to also motivate people, is if you got a group and you love that group and you're all out there and you're working out, the accountability, but also there's that social aspect to it that people seem to really like and enjoy. And again, like I said, if it feels like you like it and your perception changes from it's really tough to go do it to I really like it, I get a good burn, I feel really good about it. I think that was the first poll, right? Like trying to figure out what you think of when you think of exercise or physical activity. If you're doing it with a group of people, a lot of time that changes how you see that exercise or that physical activity, and you start to really enjoy yourself. Okay, so I'm hoping that I left enough time. I usually have a lot of questions about this kind of stuff. So Randy.
We do have a question, and this one is from Corinne, and she says, I've read and heard that it's better to exercise in the midday. Any thoughts? And I know you talked a little bit about that mentally, but I'm thinking maybe even physically. I mean, we've all heard that you shouldn't go swimming right after you eat lunch. Should you get on a treadmill after you eat lunch, or are you more susceptible to cramping then? I mean, or if you exercise like at 1 o'clock, are you ruining yourself for that big 3 o'clock presentation that you have to give? Are there any ups or downsides to exercising in the middle of the day beyond the mental and emotional?
Well, and of course, the psychologist answer usually is it depends, which I know can kind of be a sneaky answer, but I do hear that there are benefits to working out at different times of the day. I've definitely read research about that and different articles. And for me, I usually tell people that if there is no downside, like if you don't, get really tired later on and find that it's hard to fulfill the obligations of the day, and you enjoy that, or you can get it in more in the midday, or, if you're looking for certain results and you're reading something that says, hey, you can get these particular results if you do it at this time, if you can make it happen and you can keep yourself motivated, then I say go for it. I don't really know if there's research that would say, it's bad to do it, midday or evening, or honestly, most people are behind it no matter when you're doing it. You know, most medical and psychologists are going to tell you if you're increasing your physical activity, as long as you're not obviously making medical stuff worse or injuries worse, then it's the best thing in the world for you.
Yeah, and a reminder, 34% of our audience are evening exercisers, 32% are early morning exercisers. So the midday exercisers are in the minority there. But the important thing is to do it. I mean, the numbers that come out, every study that I see, it just pounds it into you, the importance of getting up and moving around. And this whole business of, well, I've got 12 reasons why I shouldn't, that's not doing anybody any good.
Right.
We got another, Susie posted, she said that she needs to work out in the morning, otherwise life happens and she doesn't have the time, the energy, or the focus to spend after a full workday. Hers is just prioritizing. And I think that's interesting because, you know, people who try to build wealth, there's an old saying that you have to pay yourself first, because you have to pay your light bill and your heat bill and your bill for your car. But people who build wealth, they pay themselves first by putting money in the bank. And I think Susie's onto something here where she does her exercise first, and that's a commitment to her health being the most important thing she's going to do all day. So she's going to do that first. That seems to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and like I said, you know, there's research to back that up, you know, and especially if you're one of the people out there that's listening that want to exercise and haven't been able to maybe get motivated to do it yet, that there's research that says that first thing in the morning is one of the easiest times usually for people, because life gets in the way. So it can be very, very difficult to do it later on. And sometimes I've had people come in, I will say this, I've had people come in and start it in the morning, and then once they're actually in the routine and they're feeling better and they're seeing the results, they've actually moved it to different times of the day. So you can do that too.
You mentioned endorphins kicking in. And it's funny because I was listening to you, I was chuckling because it sounds like we should spend a lot of times tricking ourselves. Like, hey, Randy, I know you're just going to put on your sweatpants, but you're not really going to exercise. So just put your sweatpants on. And as soon as you put it on, it's like, hey, Randy, you got your sweatpants on. Just go stand over there. Can you actually trick yourself? Am I that stupid that I can easily trick myself into doing these things? But then you added that other part. Endorphins kick in, and maybe at that moment you're no longer tricking yourself. Now you're on board with the whole thing.
Well, and pretty much, yes, I make the joke all the time, and I actually used the word earlier about manipulation, but it is true. We are easily, like, if you know what to say to yourself, you can get yourself to do anything. It's just, you got to get yourself to do it. So I tell people all the time, we manipulate ourselves all the time to do things that either we want to do or we don't want to do. And we're reinforced to do it. So, and that's what keeps our motivation going, right? So it actually is, you know, the old idea of, if you can get yourself to do it for 5 to 10 minutes, usually you're going to keep doing it until you finish it, you know. And the cool thing about exercise is the endorphins kick in. So yeah, at that point, you're not tricking yourself anymore.
Yeah, at that point, you're actually glad you're doing it. It feels good, and you're glad that you're along for the ride. Yes. So maybe that's another thing, you can put a bullet point on that. There will come a moment in this process where you're no longer struggling and that you're glad to be a part of it. Yes. I got another question that just came in. Is there an ideal length of time to exercise for those of us who don't have a lot of time? I mean, ideally, you know, we should all do 2.5 hours a day, I suppose, with a physical trainer, and, you know, a whole wide variety of exercises, the entire body group from toes to hair follicles. But realistically, how much should we do and still benefit ourselves? Is there a minimum amount that we can target and still feel good about ourselves?
So I've read a lot of different things when it comes to exercise. And, you know, I think, like the government will say something, then you've got physical trainers who will say something, and kinesiologists will say something. So everybody kind of has a different opinion. But I think the overall has been that the recommendation is about, what did they say? I think it's 30 minutes per day, about 5 days a week. And so you want to get like an overall of, what is that, 150 minutes per week, you know?
Yeah.
And of course, the more regular you can be with it. So I usually break that down about 30 minutes because that seems to be the easiest for most people, is they can give maybe 30. But sometimes I'll tell people, if you can't give 30 and you can only give 10 to 15 or 20, just give 10 to 15 to 20.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, there are recommendations out there that say about 150 minutes per week of some type of exercise that gets your heart rate going. Now, whatever that is, that's, you know, because everyone's physical fitness is different. So you can choose anything. But also, you know, it's like I said, you might not be meeting those recommendations, but you might still be being able to be active 2 or 3 days out of the week, or maybe you can do it 5, but you can only give it 10 to 15 to 20 minutes. Whatever you can is better.
And the payoffs are huge. The payoffs are huge, and a little is better than nothing, and little things can lead to big things too. So even if you can only start small, it can lead to something big. And a comment just came in from David: and how much worthless television do we watch? And I agree with that. And I will tell you something, in my house, as soon as the TV comes on, all worthwhile activity has ended for that day. It's like the sign that, okay, we've given up. So a goal in our house is to keep the TV off as long as we possibly can to contribute positively to our lives. And once the TV goes on, that's over with. Lindsey, thanks so much. You were an absolute joy to listen to today. A lot of helpful information. And as soon as I'm done with this webinar, I'm heading to Planet Fitness. I hope to see some people from the webinar over there. And some resources. I want to let you know that you're going to find the following. If you go to peacehealth.org/workout-smarter, there'll be a recording of today's session along with the presentation slides. I know we had a couple of people comment that they wanted us to go back so they could see the slides again. You can download this entire presentation on peacehealth.org, Workout Smarter, along with a one-page overview, and worksheets as well will be there. You can also sign up for our monthly e-newsletter, and that will be valuable for you because it gives you alerts at future webinars. Some brief health news. We don't have a lot of time for things, so we try to pack a big punch in a small brief health news item. Special offers, upcoming local events, and you can sign up at peacehealth.org/email or in the post-webinar survey that's coming right up. And we do want you to fill out the survey for a couple of reasons, because we want to bring you health information that's going to target your interests, guests that have information that'll be valuable to you and your health and the health of your family. And also, somebody who fills out that survey is going to have that Fitbit heading their way. Remember, Peace Health, we're here to help you. Our website, peacehealth.org/healthyu. It's available online 24/7. And we really appreciate that you've taken the time with us today, and we hope that this was beneficial. Thanks again to Lindsey King, and thank you, and good luck in your workouts, everybody. So long.